The supply chain that brings pharmaceutical drugs from the factory to the pharmacy is long, complex, and many experts say opaque. Congress and several state legislatures have proposed or enacted laws to bring more transparency and curb soaring drug prices. As special correspondent Fred DeSam Lazaro reports, many small or independent pharmacies complain that those high prices, in many cases, actually hurt them.
This story began on a personal note. I recently went to refill a prescription at my neighborhood pharmacy. I assumed my drug's $500 copay was bringing a reasonable profit to the store.
But much to my surprise, a few months ago, the folks at St. Paul Corner Drug asked if I could take my business elsewhere because they were losing money filling this prescription.
If you pay $578 for something and you only take in $500, that's not a sustainable model, and that's kind of where we're at right now.
John Hession owns the drugstore, a Norman Rockwell-like fixture that's been here for 101 years, complete with a soda fountain until the pandemic. He's not sure how long he'll be able to hang on.
They're literally sucking the financial life out of my business.
The they he's referring to are three principal links in a complex supply chain: drug manufacturers, wholesale distributors, and he says his most immediate existential threat, PBMs, or pharmacy benefit managers, so-called middlemen companies that determine what drugs are covered by insurance, the price he is paid, and the copays required of patients. PBMs began to grow rapidly in the 1980s and 90s as the pharmaceutical pipeline began swelling with new drugs, statins to lower cholesterol, antidepressants, acid reducers. Health insurers scrambled to keep up.
It didn't take very long for the insurance side of life to say, hey, if you want to manage this stuff for us, great. It was a reasonable thing to simplify the claims management of prescription drugs.
PBMs were hired by insurance companies to manage the growing drug benefit costs by establishing and maintaining formularies, a list of what drugs will and will not be covered. Over time, they've evolved into a multi-billion-dollar business themselves.
They literally are taking money from every aspect of pharmacy distribution.
They demand extensive documentation, tie reimbursements to elaborate metrics of quality, and yet, Hession complains, reimburse him far less than what it costs to fill a prescription, and far less than they bill their client health plans for the same prescription.
Bill Blue Cross $40, pay me $7. People ask, where does the $33 go? To the PBM.
And PBMs have branched into his business with their own retail shops like CVS and with mail order and specialty pharmacies.
All the things that you see advertised on TV, those are all essentially not available at my pharmacy. They've been classified by the pharmacy benefit manager industry as specialty drugs. And what's special about them is that they can make a lot of money off of them.
Nothing beyond your expertise.
Correct.
They're supposed to be negotiating lower prices for consumers, but they're actually doing the opposite.
The St. Paul pharmacist has an unlikely ally in Stephen Ubel, who heads Pharma, the trade group of large drug manufacturers.
They're buying pharmacies, they're buying healthcare providers, and they're steering patients to the providers that they own.
He notes that the three top pharmacy benefit companies are now owned by large insurance companies and control nearly 80% of the market. And a key source of revenue are rebates they negotiate from drug manufacturers. A company must agree to these price discounts to have its product, instead of a competitor's, covered by the insurance plans. The amount of the rebates is not publicly disclosed for proprietary reasons, PBMs say. But instead of bidding down drug prices, Pharma's Ubel says they do the opposite.
They actually make more money off a higher priced drug. Our members now capture less than 50 cents of the dollar of the list price of a medicine.
That in turn forces drug companies to raise their list prices, he says. What do PBMs say? They've gone public.
Big Pharma has big power over drug prices. Big drug companies are setting the price of pharmaceuticals out of reach.
J.C. Scott, who heads the Trade Association of PBM Companies, says things would be a lot worse without his members.
The pharmacy benefit companies have been largely very successful in helping to mitigate the net cost of prescription drugs and provide access for millions and millions of Americans.
Scott argues his members' entire focus is on high quality and lowering costs, and in providing cost-saving options to patients.
Price hikes and patent schemes.
The PBM group accuses drug companies of raising prices and gaming patent laws to preserve high prices. He cites insulin, the diabetes drug whose prices were cut first by one and then the two other leading makers, amid widespread criticism of sharp price increases over recent decades.
They used their discretionary power to cut the price of those drugs. They weren't prevented by the rebate. It was a good thing, and in fact, we continue to encourage pharma companies to cut the price of their drug.
I'm sorry, this medicine isn't covered by your insurance.
As Congress and state legislatures debate reforms, Pharma has its own ad campaign.
I'm your insurance company's pharmacy benefit manager.
Pharma's Jubal seizes the insulin example to make a counterpoint. When prices began to fall, he says, many PBMs continued to require that their patients remain on brands that had not yet dropped their prices, sticking patients with higher co-payments.
Because they made more money as a percentage off the higher priced drug. So to me, it's a poster child for why the system needs to be changed.
The system is so complex, I don't think there are even 50 people in the US who understand the full thing. See the price going up over time.
Dr. Vincent Rajkumar, a hematologist at the Mayo Clinic, says despite various bipartisan efforts to bring more transparency and the Inflation Reduction Act, which will allow Medicare to begin negotiating the price of some drugs, comprehensive reform is difficult in a complex $500 billion business.
There's a blame game where pharmaceutical companies say it's not us, and PBM say it's not us, it's them. So we really are caught between two people who are both profiting.
So what do you see emerging in the next few years?
I don't even think it's right to say what the market will bear is what outrage will bear.
Insulin remains a rare example of a price drop, he says, one at least partly a response to public outrage.
The outrage caused by families losing children with type 1 diabetes to high prices of insulin. The outrage caused by citizens in the US finding that they could go to Canada and find the same drug at 1/10 the price led to this movement of advocacy. That advocacy led to action.
What does all this mean for the corner drugstore?
I get letters every month from one of the major chains to purchase my prescription records, my files, and basically buy me out.
His response is to buy time and sell new things.
We're doing a tetanus shot today.
Nutritional supplements and vaccination services, hoping reforms at the state and federal level somehow bring relief. And although his store is so busy they're not accepting new patients, Hession says there's a good chance the ones he has will soon have to go to those chain stores. And this drugstore, like a third of all independent pharmacies in Minnesota, will go the way of the soda fountain. For the PBS NewsHour, this is Fred DeSan Lazaro in St. Paul.